Hey everyone, welcome to Dialog Choices podcast. These are my co-hosts. Introduce yourself
Colonel
simultaneously.
RPG.
Let's go. Yeah.
Andrew is not. That's not your name, Andrew. Do things
It
properly.
could be. They don't know me.
I love my
It's-
co-host, Colonel RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, you know what? I should have just did like. There you go.
There,
That's-
yep. Yep.
There you go.
That's a different.
the
That's a different
accurate feeling.
co-host. It's a guest.
Yeah, that's our fourth guest. No, I don't know why I'm saying that because I have.
Microsoft's Minecraft's gender-neutral Steve.
Is it a gender neutral, Steve? Because
He made that claim at some point, but it was this confusing claim given like the design of Steve at the time.
And the fact that Alex exists.
Didn't and yeah.
Have
I
you
thought
noticed that
Alex
whenever
was
there's
supposed to be
any
gender neutral.
adaptation or comic or like toy or merch of Steve, he's incredibly white and he doesn't look like that at all in the game at all. There's like colorism, I think, going on with Steve.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
people just assume that if some guy's gonna like colonialize an entire island, it's probably a white guy.
You just look at his character model and then you look at anything of that character model outside of the game and you're like, you disagree about what this guy looks like in some key ways.
I think I always thought that like his he looks darker because of the beard, but he does have a beard, right?
No, like everything about him is he's just pretty dark.
yeah,
He-
yeah. Steve
Right,
is just
yeah,
a
he is.
generally. He's like a medium skin tone.
medium skin tone. Medium rare.
Yeah. Because he's not he's not like white, but he's not. I guess it is brown, but I'm not like it's not like a darker brown.
You
I
can
don't
see
know.
it in the arms. Yeah, it's definitely
But it is.
tanner than normal white, I suppose.
Yeah, I
That's-
assume the idea here is that it's like a person, like a castaway, someone who's been stuck outside all day, abandoned on an island. So they have like a slight tan, but the toys are like Steve is either yellow or plain white, and you're like, these are not the colors. Neither of these are the colors.
But I honestly thought Alex was supposed to be sort of gender neutral. I remember hearing something about that.
Who's Alex?
Red hair.
The red hair, yeah.
Oh, is there like another playable protagonist now or something?
Yeah, you don't
Minecraft
know that?
Alex.
You can
No,
choose
I
Alex or
I don't play console or like
it's not called. It's on PC.
any other version of Minecraft. I've been playing the same copy of Minecraft since beta, and like I have an uploaded avatar. so like I've always been like,
Yeah,
I think I play as
fair.
the kid from Bastion, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I made a
The
really
kid-
bad.
By which I mean
skin
the
for
character
myself.
named the kid. It says the kid just rages for a while.
Mm-hmm. So, we have questions this week.
But
we do.
are they
we
real?
do.
They are real. At least one
Are
of
they
them is. The
real?
other
Oh my
one,
God.
I don't know. The other one,
Is
Keith
that-
says it's real. But
What does that mean?
you were
what are
saying
the
that you
words
played
you're saying mean?
Civilization.
Someone can make
You're-
up
you're-
fake questions.
Yeah,
How does a question be fake? You mean we could make up fake questions?
we could.
Yeah.
Well,
Nobody
Yeah.
would be the
Yes.
wiser.
people can ask
It's a-
fake questions.
It's a confusing what, like they're not sincere about wanting the answer. That's just
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
that's
they just don't care.
normal
They're just
po-
being.
that's just normal polite conversation with people.
Oh, look, I just received an email with a question. Hey, Keith, Colonel, and Andrew.
Oh,
why
so
are you guys so
believable.
amazing? Why are you so amazing?
Oh,
I like you
man.
so much. So you're so amazing. I like you.
Oh, I love
See?
this anonymous viewer will never
See, it's a
figure out
question.
who's behind these words.
Never, ever.
There's
Is
no
lost.
clues of any
None.
kind.
I deleted the email right now, so you can't figure it
Damn.
out.
And emails famously cannot be retrieved ever once deleted.
Never, definitely not. We do have questions though. this
Stupid
week.
bit.
It is a very stupid bit. What is the what is the question?
Salutations, Keith, Andrew, Colonial, and possible Bird, Lady Bird, or Stephanie. They wrote Lady Bird. with a space between, and I don't think that's how it's written.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know. Like I don't know if it's even like an official designation or just kind of like a half-assed thrown together thing. Like, whatevs.
Well, anyway, sorry, I am not great at writing emails or anything for that matter. Aw, no, you're good. Look at this. It's good email. It's better than the other one that I received and it deleted just before.
I've seen better.
Okay. But I had a question for the podcast. What are you people's? I do not mean you people in that weird derogatory. Oh, because you can be derogatory with you people. What is this? I don't mean it in that weird derogatory way. Since I was just trying to not say guys and could not find a word. It's folks is good. People is nice as well. I like folks. Do you like folks? Why are you folks? What are your folks? Anyway, the question is, what are you people's opinions on Forex games? I have always enjoyed them as a way to have a relaxed game playing experience that is still challenging. Anyway, though I may have a lot of differing opinions from you. Ooh, couching our responses already, and they're not going to agree with us when we say things. Anyway, I may have a lot of different opinions from you. I really enjoy your podcast and some of your Let's Plays, but not all of them. So sincerely, thanks for doing what you do, and have a wonderful rest of insert the time period which you have. If you read this, I think I was supposed to insert the time period. So rest of the evening, I suppose, for me. For you guys, it's different. So that's the question.
Okay. A lot of question.
That was. I also added some things in the middle, mind you.
I was going to say, I feel like I got a little lost in that part and forgot the question along the way.
So, what are your opinions on Forex games? Is the question, I think. The gist of it. The short and the stubby.
The short and the stubby.
It depends.
That's an expression, right?
No, not that I've ever heard of. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, I've played so many of them. I have genuinely played, I don't know, you can Google them and probably like half the list that shows up. I've played those games. And I feel like my only response is just like, that's a lot of time. All of them are just like, that's a lot of time. People complain about Monopoly, but like these games exist and they're not very short. Like, I don't know. It's all of them. From start to finish, you need to take so much time to learn all of the mechanics, how all of the builds work, like what, like even just basic strategies of like, all right, so I need, like take civilization. All right, well, I at least need to try to get myself to like the wheel stage or whatever, or like the place where I have wheels, so that way at least my trading is fast enough to keep my cities alive, so that if someone attacks me, I'm not gonna starve to death. Like, there's like these so much basic shit just to get a mediocre experience out of the game, and then from there it's just like, okay, fine, well, I'm gonna see you in the next 500-hour match, and you're like, what? Why? What is this? What's happening? Who's sitting here for this long? I don't know. And then you do that over and over and over again.
I think that's a reasonable explanation of what Forex games are. So for those who don't know, Forex is a portmanteau for exploration, expansion, and
this escalated very quickly.
Extinction.
There we go. We know this. And so famous games like that is indeed Civilization.
I love how confidently the list started and then it just ran out hard.
Yeah, I only got to 2x. So Civilization is a famous one. For me, I played Civilization 4 for a little while. So yeah, I basically got to the point where I realized, so if I want to keep playing this game, it's gonna be hours, which is fine. It's absolutely good. But I at the time was lucky enough to find another Forex game that is not as famous, but it's pretty influential. Anno from, I don't actually know the name of the studio, but I played Anno 1404 back in 2011 or something, whenever it came out. And I was like, oh, this game is amazing, because it takes away a little bit of the, or quite a lot actually, of the challenge and the sort of being attacked dynamic and the and there's not much way for things to go wrong. It's just a matter of how do you want to grow your city, where do you want to put the buildings, and it's a very simplistic game, all things considered. But I really enjoyed the aspect of creating something that is, strong or big, and having a big city in Anno 1404 is pretty fun because you have to balance all the productions and all that. It's a game focused as well on production lines and managing the needs of the people. A little bit similar, I would think, to what's the name of that one? Tropico, right? It's a little bit closer to Tropico because Tropico is a little bit closer to Civilization. I never played Tropico. I really should.
Wait, what?
But I'm a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah,
is
isn't it a
Tropico
little
more
bit
closer to Civilization? I guess. I guess I was thinking Tropico is because isn't Tropico you have to build unique buildings? I thought it's closer to StarCraft than it would be to.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at screenshots. It is like Anno. You're right. Yeah. It's not like Civilization.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Civilization is very like hands off. You just build a town and then it does it for you, kind of thing. But yeah, I think like Tropico is more like StarCraft or Rise of Nations.
Rise of Nations, yeah.
Age of Empires, where you have to like build build the barracks, build the town hall, build the blah blah blah, and then build units from there.
Because that's where I started. Like, it's not even 4X anymore. Things like Pharaoh or Caesar or these are old games. I was thinking of another one. Oh, Crusader, obviously. Crusader and it's not just Crusader, it's the other one. Stronghold, right. Did you guys ever play Stronghold? The original ones?
I don't think I ever played Stronghold, no.
And those were the time. Those are really old games, though. They were fun. They were goofy because they add really a lot of personality to every enemy and to everything. It's like it's taken in tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, and you have to bring all the needs of the population into the castle and all that. And I think I growing up playing those games and just playing it for fun, not being really good at it, basically informed me later on in life to be like, oh yeah, this is what I like. And I played Anna for hours and hours and hours, and I had some pretty enormous cities, and I was deep into the strats and all that. But you're right, it's like the 4X genre is definitely the kind of genre that I know isn't like that, but everything else tends to be where you need to, once you learn everything, then you figure out, oh yeah, okay, now let's do a whole 100-hour campaign here. And certainly things like Europa Universalis 4, which I played a lot as well, and more recently Crusader Kings 3. I never got into Crusader Kings 2. So yeah, those are pretty good as well. It's just more difficult to make content out of them, even though I am doing a Let's Play of Crusader Kings 3, but it's still difficult. Because,
Yeah, it is not a genre for me.
You've never played any strategy. You played Age of Empires.
Yeah, he has. He just doesn't like it.
That's not a 4X game.
But what if Age of Empires could become a 4X game?
Then I would stop playing it. I don't even like RTSs that much, but like there's a huge gap between an RTS and Age of Empires. It's like the difference between Arma and Overwatch. Like it's a completely different scale and tone and so on, despite looking similar at first glance.
Are you telling me you don't like Twilight
I would always
Imperium,
sit down for like a session of like Civilization Revolution or Civ whatever or some other game for like an hour, and it'd be like, huh. And then have this vague sense of aspirationally, maybe I would like to like this game someday or something.
Those are difficult.
But then I'm always like, I gotta play this in multiplayer to even get myself to even get through a game ever. Because otherwise it's just like a contextless, like there's no like narrative to it, despite being kind of a narrative by nature. And like you're making a billion very tiny choices with very little context to like whether they're the good ones or not. And then they just kind of just end up somewhere after like a dozen hours without that much understanding of which choices led to you being there because of how many choices you made along the way. And then it's like I guess that there's like this addictive, like one more turn nature that always people always talk about, where you just kind of just keep playing, just keep making choices, keep doing things. There's always something happening. But like, I don't know. I mostly just feel like I'm just flailing blindly, and the act of doing any better involves like hundreds of hours of research or playing the game for like as long as I've played Overwatch, basically. Like just for a strategy game that I'll probably be playing alone still, and it's like that's a lot of effort to try to get good at something that I don't even know if I like yet, and I won't play with anybody else. It's just like it's a very strange genre in that way. The only so like, yeah, in that way, the only Forex game I like is Twilight Imperium, which is a great tabletop experience.
I think Civilization is a difficult game to get to love if you're not like immediately in love with it. Especially, I think maybe because it is turn-based, because it is a game that if you don't like it, you dread clicking the next turn button because you're like, okay, more shenanigans are going to happen, and I'm going to need to learn more things, or I really think that you should like. Obviously, it's up to you. I'm saying you should give Anno a try, and I think you should. But because the thing with Anno is that it exercises more of your
the try. Fuck Anno.
Did I say
I pronounced
Anno?
it wrong.
Good try.
Yeah,
Anno the try. There we go. Edit out the first attempt at that pun.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it as I was saying it. But yeah, you should give it a try because it focuses so much on the product. It's like it focuses on the production and the solving the needs of a population that you grow, and of course you're also making a city at the same time, or an empire, or however you want to deal with it. So it's a little bit like Satisfactory mixed with Age of Empires, and I always thought it was really easy to learn more than Settlers, which is another franchise of similar scope, but it sort of went down the drain later. Not that Anno hasn't, honestly, because the last few forays are a little bit weird. But older ones.
I've only really been able to handle RTSs that end in like an hour or so. Like the big exception where it's like manage this place and solve its problems over the course of like a dozen hours and so on. Like that was Frostpunk. Frostpunk was fun.
Yeah. I know he's a little bit like that, except more free in terms of where to put things. Frostpunk was very centered around a certain place, right? I don't remember exactly. I never played it. I have the game, but I never played it.
You're very stuck, and the world is ending.
Yeah.
You live in a crater, and you're trying to outlast the not the winter, because everything's winter forever, but the super winter. You have to live through that, and that's the objective, basically. I think. Yeah, Frostpunk's
Did you never
great.
Finish it?
I beat it. It's just been years. I was like,
that's
and
why
at the time I liked it enough that I was like, I should go play all the other campaigns because they have like variation campaigns of different scenarios. But you know, then there's the part of like, do I play this game for 1 month or several months? Because other games could be played in that time, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'll never play this again.
It was really well received.
Yeah, Frostpunk's really good.
Yeah.
The whole time you're making moral choices, which is the thing where certain people reveal themselves to like Andrew, essentially, to just like not consider morality at all in video games and just be like, well, this is obviously the min-max choice, and then look, not even vaguely like give pause when it's supposed to be like, oh man, do I do the really bad thing or the thing that it might actually increase the survival in the long, like it's kind of that ruthless narrative where it's like the things that are framed as bad also might be either easier or more likely to actually succeed in the long run at keeping everybody alive. So it's justifying doing bad things, and you have to kind of go back and forth on like that approach. Kind of like how when you're in Papers, Please, when you're making choices about whether or not to like give your like, do I pay money to have air condition, like a heating system and medicine for my various family members or and so on, because I have to budget like caring for them.
I think that's a fundamentally different perspective towards story building in games. I think like I'm okay with making immoral choices and not even thinking of it as me making those choices. It's like, this is the story that I'm creating, and the characters in the story they're bad. Like Tharsis was a little bit like that. But it is easier on Tharsis because it's a shorter game. Tharsis is a simulator of a spaceship that goes to a moon of Jupiter
That's
or
that
something.
dice game.
Yeah. But some choices basically mean that you kill and eat some of the crew members. And I never really thought of it as like, oh, I this is bad. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't kill them. Because it's just mechanical. It's just very immediately mechanical, a mechanical option. But the thing is, it doesn't the fact that it is mechanical doesn't lessen the impact of this particular story went this way. Like, just because, like, I remember the first time I finished it, I managed to finish it by such a thin margin, and because it's a relatively short game, it allows me at the end of the journey to have have it all in my memory, and I'm just like looking back at what happened. I was like, oh man, this poor dude over here just got through and like saw all of his mates die and all that, and so like it's not I did that. Right, but also I suppose that also works because Tarsus is 4 players, so it's not really like this. It's obviously, this one character, I say 4 players, but I mean 4 characters. So it's a team-based thing, so it's easier to dissociate, I suppose, with the options, in a way that playing Mass Effect, it's trickier for me to dissociate. Although I also dissociate with Mass Effect 2 specifically with those options where you choose the option in the middle of a cutscene, whether it's a Paragon or a Renegade, and you don't know what happens. Anytime the option is something that I wouldn't have chosen, I'm like, the dissociation is real here. So I don't know. Maybe it depends on the game. What kind of options is it in Frostpunk? For moral reasons, I mean.
It ranges from like the obvious stuff to like, do I water down our food supply and like make soup instead, essentially, in order to like make our food supply last longer at a nutrient deficiency for the population or stuff like that, to like, do I start a religion to control them better? Like that. Like there's a range of choices over the course of the game of like, and there's a lot of like times where you kind of make a binary choice of like, would you like to do like this kind of research or that kind of research, and they have like different moral implications of like which development and which direction your society will go in. So you essentially get like a series of upgrades or techs or buildings based on which choice you made throughout the thing, and usually the one that sounds like a better thing is also much harder.
Mm-hmm.
Ew, morality? Yeah. Not on my gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Crusader Kings is a little bit like that as well, where you have a lot more personal choices than normal
Crusader
Forex
Kings
games.
Is a lot.
But there's a lot of options that are so much more personal, and there's a lot of morality there. But I also find out that I don't really get affected when I play a tyrant. I'm just like constantly being like, oh, my character is just a piece of shit. Like he doesn't care. He will kill everyone, and I'm just having fun with the mechanical aspect of the killing everyone bit, but not really caring about the fact that it's completely immoral. But I think if the game supports that sort of immorality, and Crusader Kings absolutely does, because then everybody wants to kill you if you're a tyrant. But if the game supports that sort of morality, I suppose that's always good. That's always more fun, because you can't it's like old games. I say old games, but old RPGs, things like Baldur's Gate. Being evil in those games is actually just about seeing somebody be evil for the sake of it. There's no balancing act. There's just like, oh, a penny for me, please, and you kill them, and that's it. And then there's no consequence. Like the guard maybe shows up. Actually, if you do that, the likely, unless you're seen, if you're seen, the guard attacks you, then you kill the guard, and then that's it. That's it, as in you continue to play the game. But if the guard doesn't attack you, the consequences are exactly the same as if they did, because you just lower your reputation, which means, I think in Mass Effect, in Baldur's Gate 1, I think specifically there's no like wanted state. There's no like, you can be evil and nothing happens. Nobody wants to send you to prison. It's like, okay. It was always kind of funny. They're to think about, because they're games and RPGs that are so influential, and people talk about them as these big adventures where you have to make choices and all that. But most of the choices that you make tend to be like, how do I get the best result? It's the whole thing about Fall 1 all over again. Old RPGs tend to be like that. Is how do you get the best solution for this quest and figure it out. Not really, oh, is what I'm doing right or wrong? It's like, who do I need to talk to make this fella get this house or whatever? Just because the quests are like that, and it's more like a puzzle rather. And in the middle of the puzzle options, they give you one option to be evil. And if you want to be evil, sure, but the consequences are usually you get to see less characters.
Yeah. There's early RPGs like Fallout 1 and 2, or Fallout 1 is the one I can speak to, where like, yeah, like so much effort goes into just trying to parse the logic of how to proceed at all in the game that it's really hard to stop and think about morality or even whether or not other options exist, because it took you so long to figure out one option at all that you're just like, how the fuck, what do they want from me? And you're like trying to figure out which of the 75 identical NPCs might be the one that you interact with, and then like, what is the logic of this quest? And also like, is it a quest? Because it's not, because like I talked about before, the game has like, I don't know, let's just say it has 50 quests, and your quest log in the entire playthrough gets like 3 quests. And like, for some reason, and the other like 47 never show up in your quest log, so you just have to think you know which ones are quests and can be followed up on, and try to remember what the NPC said about where to go next. And like a lot of the time it's just like, yeah, it's like, it's really hard to think about the morality, because it's like there's something to be said about how like it's kind of maybe too handholdy sometimes when like a BioWare game or even Frostpunk just throws the morality as a choice on the screen to some extent. But like there's a lot of games where you can't even think about morality because you're struggling so hard just to figure out how to even proceed at the game that you can't be like, oh, and I also have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of my options. It's like, no, I banged my head against a wall for an hour and then I found one option and I'm like, I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I understand. You can't
tell which ones are you like getting it and not getting it, which ones are stat things blocking you from accessing things, because like the way the dialogue and so on often works is that entire parts of the game are just a secret if you didn't get access to the being shown it. So then you don't even know if you're making a choice or not, or what, or if you're being backed into having one choice, and it can be frustrating.
But you also see that or sort of that design in Oblivion and Skyrim.
Maybe.
Morrowind in particular,
years.
you see that. Yeah, Morrowind in particular, you see that, where like you find a witch. Well, actually, you find the barbarian naked in the woods, and like the whole quest is about where is the witch. It isn't about let's tell the barbarian that maybe you shouldn't try revenge. Revenge is bad. And also, why are you barbarian? What is this? What setting is this? You're just a Nord. But like it's not you don't engage directly with the quest in the normal in a way that normal people do. Like you can as a Let's Player, and I think certainly as Let's Players we tend to have much more freedom to ramble about things that aren't necessarily where the game is going. But if you're playing the game just by yourself, especially in the context of normal gameplay where people play the games to beat them, you're like, okay, I have this quest. This barbarian is naked and needs his axe. Where's the witch so I can get the axe? And so you're not even as a player, you're not really thinking of what you're going to do when you find the witch, even though that's something that normal people would do. You're thinking, I wonder what's going to happen when I find the witch, rather than what am I going to do, right? And that's what happens. Like in Morrowind specifically, I don't know if you ever did find the witch, by the way, Keith. This is a very famous quest in Morrowind.
I don't remember. I honestly would struggle to tell you what the plot of Morrowind was, and I played it for a while.
I can't blame you. I know the plot.
I feel like they've never made a memorable narrative like Bethesda.
I know the plot very well, but I can't blame you for that.
It's just like the moment to moment of like Morrowind was memorable because I had to like figure out my bus routes and like figure out how to navigate the world and kind of unfold that over time. But the actual narrative of it is completely like lost. I don't remember at all what it was. I remembered that I had to figure out where the guy was in the opening town, and he was in the opposite corner of town. And I was like, oh, that's what this game's going to be. You have to follow these directions and so on, as opposed to just chasing markers. And that was neat.
I know exactly where it is.
I hate Bethesda storytelling.
Yeah, Morrowind in terms of storytelling, it works really well if you've played the game 2 or 3 times already and read things about it. And then you can appreciate the game very well, like when you play it. But I think on a first playthrough, it's really like it's as you said, it's all about the minutiae of the minute to minute gameplay. It's about the bus routes. It's about the figuring out how to repair your weapon and maintain it in good shape as you go through dungeon to dungeon, because it's a dungeon crawler at the end of the day. And it's and that's why I was saying, like, the when you do find a barbarian that is naked and looking for an axe that a witch stole, your objective is, how do I navigate this level? Or it's not a level, it's open world, but still, how do I navigate this area to find a witch? And so you don't worry about the options. And I think even so, but what I'm trying to say is that you see that sort of mentality and sort of design sensibility in older RPGs as well. And that's, I think, why it's so refreshing, and why Dragon Age and Mass Effect are so refreshing, basically. And I think, I mean, The Witcher as well, from a AAA standpoint, is bringing what old school RPGs always wanted to be in regards to choices and morality and all that. They always wanted to be. They always said that they were. And in a way they were, kind of, but not really to new players. And they bring that to a mainstream audience by just having your characters be like, oh, yeah, well, that Alistair, for example, in Dragon Age, oh, that guy, he killed this guy. It's either him or me. And then you have to make a choice. It's a very blatant choice, but still, you know.
There's just a whole thing to be said about, yeah, like whether or not the audience understands what they're doing and can feel the thing, or if it's just like, oh, this is what happened, the end. You're like, oh, okay. Like, it might have been my mistake or whatever the fuck, but like, I do remember, like, I did my playthrough of Deus Ex Human Revolution, and I was just trying to like beat the level, and you know, it's like the tutorial of the game. I'm trying to figure out where to go and what I'm doing and stuff, and like everyone was losing their shit. But I didn't save the hostages. I'm like, where were they? I didn't even see them. I literally didn't see them. I'm like, where were they?
That's really poor. That's really poor that they designed it like that. I did the same thing as well. Because especially as Let's Players, like, we want to talk to everyone. We would actually want to stop when people are having conversations and record the conversations because they're good. And so, but what Deus Ex Human Revolution does, what you're referring to, is basically the first level that you're dropped into is a level full of people. And if you want to have the good ending for the first quest, you need to skip that whole level. And you don't know if you're going to come back to that level. You just skip that whole level. That's what you should do. So what you did, Keith, most likely, is just you went around and talked to people and did quests.
Well, I think that's a different thing. I think there's another thing where you get punished for taking too long in the part where you hang out at the base, even though you're given zero indication that there's a time limit.
That's the start.
But I think that in the level, in like the tutorial mission or whatever, I think there's just like hostages in a place that you need to find, and like if you don't know, if you don't notice where they even are, then you just completely miss them, and you just end up walking into the room that has like the final hostage negotiation with that one guy, and then that's it. That's the end of the level.
You're mixing it up. It is the same thing. Those are the same thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to interpret why everyone was mad at me. I mean, ultimately, I missed the thing, so I don't know where it was.
Yeah, the game doesn't make any sense. I was like, no, I didn't get the hostages killed. You did, video game. Why did I arrive not on time? Why didn't you arrive an hour earlier so I could talk to my coworkers? Or something. It's just silly. It's a silly thing. I didn't like that. Because what happens, and what I did the first time I played the game, is I went around and obviously got everybody killed by, doing the level that I was in and talking to the people. And then as soon as I finished the second level, by, doing a whole thing with stealth and all that, I realized, oh, okay, reload. That's what I did. I reloaded and skipped the first level so I could do the second level and get the good ending, which is not a good experience for a first player. It's really annoying because you're playing the same levels over and over again. And I definitely did that the first time.
It's not like Pathologic where you're like, oh, I made a long series of decisions, but I ultimately basically failed this day, and I need to figure out how to do better next time. It's just like, some bullshit, just some bullshit wasted my time, and I get to replay a whole level for no reason now. Yep.
Oh man, that's a good comparison. Deus Ex Human Revolution against Pathologic.
Pathologic's one of my go-to games about why every other game is bad.
That's definitely that meme with a buff dog and the one that's like whimpering.
Oh,
Deus Ex is the whimpering dog.
The two Shiba Inus. Yeah,
I love that.
It's just Pathologic and Breath of the Wild are both variations of just like, hey, what if open worlds fucking served any purpose and aren't just like a weird time wasty thing where you just kill time, and that's the only reason the product exists, and so it doesn't really have any like demands on you and such, and thus in turn you don't have demands on it, and you just kind of like quietly coexist boringly. Like that's what open world games usually are. It's just like, what if I gave you 5 billion chores and you can get to them like whenever, man? And like that's just the genre. Like, and you're like, wow, look at me. I cleared an entire region of Ghost of Tsushima of the 75 identical outposts to clear. Woo.
I mean, if the game is good, like if it feels good to play and do that over and over again, I suppose it's all right to have an open world that is just there to like feed you things to do. Like if it's a good example is that puzzle game that you played with trees and trunks. It's an open world game.
What?
Do you remember that? I don't remember. What was the name of the game?
Monsters Expedition?
That doesn't sound right. Monsters?
I think it is. You knock over trees and you roll them around, and it's a museum of them trying to interpret what human artifacts are.
That was called Monsters Expedition? That's the least relatable. There's no monsters in that game.
You're on a monster and you're in an expedition. You're the monster. You're in a museum.
I know, it makes sense, but it's not on the gameplay level. Yeah, that game.
Trees and trunks.
It's open world and you just do things. I think that's all right. It's not really open world, but you know what I mean. It kind of is, right?
I mean, it's a non-linear puzzle game where the world, you solve puzzles to unlock the next levels, but levels have multiple solutions that lead to multiple levels, so it's a big branching path into that. Just kind of, there's an ongoing thing. Like I think since Steven Sausage Roll, or maybe it was around before that, but maybe that also inspired a lot of people anyway, to just kind of have the world, it's the hub itself be kind of a puzzle in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
Have that eat up some time.
But I'm also thinking about Elder Scrolls. Which one is the Dark Souls 4? I forget the name of the game.
Elden Ring?
The Elden Ring. That's
the game you're currently playing? Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute.
I'm also thinking
Elder Scrolls.
No, it's the wrong Elder. It's because it is, somebody just asked, like I was streaming earlier and somebody came in and was like, so what is the point of this game? Is just to run around and beat up dudes? And I was like, yeah, that's basically it.
Kinda, yeah.
And the reason why I like it is because I like the combat system. Like I like it a lot. And it's, it adds to that. I suppose the open world adds to that a sense of self-pacing and a sense of so it's both the self-pacing of the adventure, but also the fact that you can see pretty things in the meantime. It's not just dungeons and oppressive things. I suppose that it doesn't really add much in my opinion, but some people like it, so that's fine. And self-pacing is always, there's no self-pacing for me. I will always beat whatever is in front of me, and I will play for hours if I have to, and I did. But it's good for other people, like if play styles. I think that's probably the biggest strength of Elden Rings, is that because it is open world, and also because of the mechanics, it does support different play styles. It isn't the style of game that railroads you as much as Dark Souls did, in terms of you have to learn to play it in a certain way, or one of certain ways. You can, like, if you just want to shoot bosses from afar with a bow, you can do that. If you want to use magic in a weird, janky way, you can do that. If you want to summon, or if you want to overlevel, if you just want to roam around with a horse and kill people from the horse, you can always do that. And I think
you've always been able to do most of those in Dark Souls. It's just the magic in particular can sometimes be a bit of a build-up to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I do think that it's a lot more forgiving in that regard.
Yeah, because you can just fuck off and do whatever you want infinitely. Yeah. And
yeah,
you can run around the same field and kill people for 75 hours, or you can, like, every single time you get stuck anywhere, you can just leave and go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it also leads to an unusual quantity of getting stuck because of the fact that the difficulty curve is like, there's like a vaguely correct way to go through the game. So if you actually explore, there's a lot of finding out you actually can't explore as much as you thought in some ways, because the difficulty curve is so out of whack. If you actually try to do like, you know, experience your freedom that way.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a struggle.
Yeah, it's the kind of game. I wonder how good it would be if it didn't have level up mechanics. If you could just build
like
a
if it was like
character.
just a kind of a flat, just go fight these things, and you're always doing it at the intended difficulty.
Yeah, I think it probably would be worse, or at least less well received. I'm not sure if worse,
because people
probably
like
worse
feeling
for
like
some
they're making
people.
progress one way or the other.
Yeah, but not just that. I think it's like the level up mechanics are definitely a way to allow people to have an easier time. Not about just having progress. It's just like knowing that, oh, now it's hard, but in the future it's going to be better. It's going to be easier because you need it to be easier rather than like I would love the bosses that I'm fighting right now to be a little bit harder.
I just often don't love it when you go around and you get blocked, not because the fight is hard on a technical level, but because the stats are just so out of whack that you're just so fucked. Like it's just 1 or 2 hits and you're dead, and you're like, but
you did go to the worst place, Keith. You did. I just mean
like
right
this, but there's parts of the game where you're like, this is the asylum demon, basically. Like it's so easy, but I have to play perfectly for a long time to win. So you get stuck in this gap of being like, I just want to beat, like, I don't want to leave and come back because he's so easy, but also I've been fighting him for an hour because, you know, and then people be like, isn't that a contradiction? And it's not. There are bosses that just are really easy, but also like fuck you stats, and you're like, this is agony because I can't stomach the idea of leaving and coming back because of how easy the fight is. I can't accept the idea of giving up on it, but also like fuck, it just kills me like instantly when I make one mistake and I have to like hit him like 50 times to win.
Yeah, I don't think it's if the boss. If you need to be perfect in a fight, then it's not an easy fight. It's so difficult to be perfect. I don't think I can't remember any of the occasions.
It's just agony when the goal of being perfect seems so obtainable because it's such an easy fight. No, I can do it. Just what? God,
but
no, not again.
Is, though. When do you ever fight a boss without taking a single hit?
Every now and then.
I never
surprises happen. But
I think that has happened like less than 5 times through all Dark Souls and Elden Ring to me.
But like the other negative of the open world stuff is the fact that like then you turn around and you're like, oh fuck, I was supposed to find this a lot sooner, wasn't I? So you're like, this place is really cool and that boss is really cool, but because I didn't play it at the right time, it's like embarrassingly easy, and so it's not a very good time either. Like both of those variations kind of suck, and so that's the bummer of the open world in that way. Is like on top of the losing of the Dark Souls level design that you're used to, there's just the fact that like there's just a lot of feeling that like sure it's open, you have so much freedom supposedly, but if you experience much of that freedom, then you're going to be experiencing a lot of the game wrong in a way that is more wrong than even I want to admit. Where like it's just like there's just a lot of content that just like when you're either over or under leveled, it's just like not a great experience.
I do think that the dungeon bosses, specifically talking about Elden Rings, the dungeon bosses, because there's a distinction between, for those who don't know, to give context, there's basically a distinction between a normal boss and a boss that is like a mini side boss. You get into a dungeon and you solve a puzzle, that's a dungeon, and then you get into a boss arena and you fight a little boss. I think most of those are always going to be really easy, because even on my level 0 samurai, I was killing them without issue. Like it's a lot easier with a lot more health and a lot more damage. But
I struggled more, but that's because like 2 hours into the game, I went directly into Liurnia, and then was fighting all of those dungeon bosses instead.
The cat. Did you find the cats already?
Yeah, I've fought a few different versions of them now.
Yeah, the cats do a lot of damage. Oh, yeah, that's why you're talking about the one-shot kill. Yeah, the cats are... They are very, very brutal. And it's kind of funny that you say you died. You had to be perfect. Is the cats that you're talking about being perfect?
No. When I said Asylum Demon, I meant it. Like it was the fucking... One of those...
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
One of the tree dudes was just like agony. And it was even more frustrating because I'd beaten one of them before. So it was just one of them, but with one more trick and also way higher stats. And I'm like, no, I can fucking win. I can do it. And so it's like, here comes a fucking unabridged. It's like my most embarrassing unabridged video, but here it comes.
That's why
it's like, it's not a fight. It's not a boss that ever should have earned an unabridged video from me, but I wouldn't leave. So here we go.
You have to make an unabridged video. You must not lose footage.
I mean, at some point, there's just well, yeah. It's like I do the edit. I do the one where I make a good video where I edit correctly, and then I also do the unabridged video because I'm like, well, fuck it. Here's my hour of agony, and then everyone's like, here's all the things you were doing wrong. It's like, yeah, I know. I lived that, and then I also like already edited a version that isn't full of the mistakes that you're complaining about, but okay. And then we all have a good argument.
It's difficult editing a boss that you spend a whole lot of time fighting.
Yeah, like what the fuck is the ideal experience or like video to make that of that?
Because if we cut out a lot, because like the first problem I find is that you don't want to have just half fights, but usually, like ideally, that would be the best. It'd be like this bit of a fight that you lost eventually, but just include a little bit where you go, oh, I see where that's the call, that's like the telegraph, I understand. And then another bit where you're like, oh, then he does this weird attack. And like normally you would edit it like that, but that's super weird because you're just skipping fights and the health bar is going up and down and you're not really dying.
It's confusing.
That's bad, right? So you want to include just the fights where you learn the most rather than, or are more exciting, I suppose. But then there's whole lot of other fights, especially the ones where you lose a lot or faster. Those are the fights where you learn the most. So for me, I've found out that even if I include a lot of the deaths at the end, the last fight is going to be me being like super over 9,000 level and just be like, oh, I know all this stuff. This is the fight that I win, and I do. Because it's the last one. I'm thinking specifically of the Tree Sentinel, which is one of the first bosses that I fought with an early game character. It took me an hour and a half. It's a good boss. It's a good boss. I had fun.
I'm getting pretty tired of all the horse people.
Really?
Like, yeah. I don't love fighting things with horses, honestly.
Oh, I don't fight them on the horse, but
No, I mean like anything on a horse. I'm getting a little tired.
It's a lot easier.
No.
They run around like lunatics, and also I have a short range weapon, so there's a lot of frustrations there.
I can imagine.
And also there has fuck you levels of attack range where I'm just like I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. I started out with a katana, which is enormous, and now I have a stock, which is even bigger.
My strategy in the game is just to be a boss. Is that I want everyone else to feel like they are the player, and they're like, "Oh no, I shouldn't be here. I'm not high enough level," and I'm just running through like a train. Everybody's like, "Oh no,"
with a like big hunk.
Yeah, it's just it's really nice when I show up to a boss chamber and the boss is like, oh no, I'm not ready for this fight. It's just like, and I just like hit it once. It's like, oh, okay, I'll stop, please. Like its pose just breaks immediately and it falls to the ground. And I'm just like, ha ha ha. Like that's
why I like the Dragon Tooth in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah. It's just, oh yeah, Dark Souls 2. I used that. That was the weapon I used. It's just, it's just too stupidly huge. It's like, oh, bonk.
Flat. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
And he doesn't even
I predict some of my boss fights being controversial when they come out. Let's see.
Oh yeah. Oh, you are using a faith build, so there's going to be a lot of times where you're just like, you're just laughing as somebody just crumbles.
Well, it's just I feel like the faith build hasn't given me that much of a benefit so far. Partly because like, I most bosses, if I try to spellcast, I just die. Like spellcasting is so slow in this game, and it almost never actually does enough damage to the point where my faith scaling weapon usually is higher DPS than anything I could have casted in that time. So it's usually not really worth it. But
are you doing faith and intelligence or just faith?
Just faith. I'm doing incantations, but also I have a faith scaling weapon too. But like every now and then, like I'll use the game's mechanics, and like that's ever since I played fucking like the original Dark Souls playthroughs that started my channel, those have always been controversial. Like, oh, you used mechanics of the game? You're supposed to literally beat the entire game completely alone with melee only, and that everything else is cheating, and you've ruined this playthrough. And so we'll see how people handle some of the boss fights that I use mechanics during.
For me, somebody was actually in my stream. They were saying, "Oh, you don't summon, or you don't like you don't do horse
Yeah, you're not
combat.
allowed to summon. You're not allowed to use status effects. You're not allowed to
No.
spell cast."
I don't use Ashes of War and special abilities and whatever because I'm just not comfortable with them. I don't know them very well. And somebody was complaining that I don't like, oh, there's a new From Software game. Let's not use any of the new features and just play it like all the other games, which is a fair assessment of my particular play style. But at the same time, like, I definitely don't think that people should feel pressured to playing a game, any game, in the correct way. Absolutely never play any game in the correct way. Just fuck the correct way all the way up to Sunday. It doesn't matter. But then that is also part of the reason why I don't use any of the new mechanics, because I know how I like to play, and I'm gonna freaking play it without summons and melee only, even if I have to mash my head against a boss for an hour and a half, and just because it's like playing the Outer Worlds without ever using any of the companion abilities. Just because I don't like that, I'm not gonna do that.
I did that.
You did that. You didn't use the companion abilities, or you used it?
I had 0 companions in my Outer Worlds
Oh,
playthrough.
right, that's true.
Yeah, so I don't know what that world's like. No one could hold my stuff. No one could help me fight. It was just me and a whole solar system, and I won.
And heaps of ammo, because that game and ammo.
Yeah,
Oh,
ammo. If you're gonna give so much, it might as well just not be a mechanic.
I know, right? That game should not have ammo. It just shouldn't.
Well, a lot of games just don't need to have ammo as a mechanic if they're just gonna fucking give you a billion bullets all the time and they have no apparent weight or limits that are gonna realistically happen to you.
It's so
I think
weird,
balancing that can be really hard sometimes.
But
so just don't. Just be like, fuck it. You have a gun and go bang bang forever. The end.
But the Outer Worlds doesn't balance it though, because they have 3 types of ammo: light, heavy, and energy. And it makes no difference what weapon you have. You have a shotgun. I think it is. Those are the ones. You have a shotgun or a pistol. Apparently that's light. You have a heavy machine gun or a sniper. Apparently that's heavy. And like, you're not balancing anything with the ammo, because ammo is really good. Like if you find a really powerful sniper rifle but you only have 5 bullets. That's nice. That's good ammo. But what they did in the Outer Worlds is they just make it all the same. And then a large part of the exploration is you picking up ammo, and then you have thousands and thousands of rounds. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. That's another game that the open world in that one particular planet shouldn't be open world. It should be dungeons. It should be different planets. They should have made that different planets.
What are you talking about?
I couldn't. Yeah.
The Outer Worlds, that planet with a bunch of acid and whatnot, apparently smells like farts.
The miserable planet that's just miserable.
Yeah.
Just every second of being there is just like, why am I playing this?
Yeah. You just put the effort into.
I don't want to be
planets.
here anymore.
It was How do we manage to go from one game to another complaining about all of them?
Stream of consciousness. It's like Vsauce. It's like word association, basically. You just kind of flow from topic to topic.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of us are doing our own thing at the same time on our computers, or we're not.
I'm not.
I don't know. Shh.
I mean, I am. I'm looking at a paused video of a Tesla flying and crashing. I never knew that car crash videos would be better with Teslas. They are. I like car crashes videos, even though that's bad to like.
I don't feel like car crashes can exist without somebody in the car, which is
yeah. Well, Tesla videos might, because don't they drive themselves?
We finally have morally acceptable car crash videos.
Yay!
No one got hurt except Elon Musk. Fuck you.
Unfortunately,
What a
that's
blessing.
not true.
The one thing he gave us was the ability to hate him and his stupid cars.
I have no idea.
I'm just on a fucking ramble.
I can
Forex
tell.
games.
Yay! I love
That's the
that.
topic we were on.
I should make
That
a
is,
racing
yeah,
Forex game.
That's
I
the
don't know. Go play Twilight Imperium. It's very hard to play. It's like
racing.
even less likely to happen than D&D.
We should make D&D happen again.
I'm shocked I've played that many. Our problem is who.
I will find the who.
Who?
I will do this. I will commit.
The best I can think of is when we're done with Wilder Myth, that group might be able to meet up for D&D. Although then Brian would be like, I play D&D Friday and Saturday. I don't know if I'm up for this. Like it's like Brian already plays D&D on Fridays. And then on Fridays we only have Bird and you. It's just the three of us most days. Andrews like doesn't exist outside of Sundays. And then like. Yeah, like like Bird doesn't like D&D, so Bird's out because Bird doesn't like D&D. So like at most we might be able to get it on Friday with you, me, and Effie, and Brian if he wants to do 2 D&D campaigns every weekend for the rest of his life, which I don't know if he's up for that. And then I don't know, I don't even know about Marty because Marty has like a full-time job, and I don't know what if he's ready to put D&D back in his life. He's expressed interest before, but the logistics, who knows? Like. It's D&D is hard to make exist.
Marty didn't have a full-time job when we were playing?
No, he always has, but I just mean like his, when D&D is gone for a while, your life reorganizes around it not exist. It's like when you like when you're in a raiding guild and then and then you beat the raid and you're like, all right, well, time to get used to having these 2 evenings a week be free again because there's no raid to work on every night in this game. And then the next patch comes out and you're like, oh fuck, time to get back to losing like 8 hours a week on this particular thing, and you have to like reorganize your life a little bit. Like that's what D&D is like.
Do that? Why do people
it's
do that?
D&D is like the same.
No,
I mean, D&D is better in a lot of
fun.
ways, but you know what I mean. I mean, rating is like a collaborative experience where even if it's not always fun, there's this experience of like, but we beat it together, and there's a narrative, and then you have a guild that you're like spending time with for like years eventually.
I suppose you're hanging out with friends.
It's a community you're with.
Yeah, you're hanging out with friends. It's like doing any competitive game, really. It's just, I suppose I do have a bias against rating instead of like things like Counter-Strike or Overwatch.
Like I would say that Overwatch is more fun moment to moment than rating is, but like rating is just like this like collaborative struggle thing that you try to defeat together, basically.
It's probably better for your mental health, all things considered, than Overwatch.
Maybe.
I think most things are.
Overwatch is tricky. It's such a tricky game to play. Unless you have a team of 6 and you need to be on top of your game. It's tricky. I think they would benefit from having a simpler game, mechanically simpler.
That's what they're working on.
Yeah. I hope they do. I hope they pull it off. Because it's just honestly, how do you feel the community is of Overwatch? I always thought it was a relatively chill community, like other players, I should say.
I don't have anything to compare it to.
In comparison to Counter-Strike?
Yeah, I don't play Counter-Strike.
My God. Yeah, that's my other comparison. It's like
the last time I played any competitive game was Halo 2 on Xbox Live. And yeah, I remember people being douchebags in that, but I don't know. I was a teenager. I was 14, so I don't know what to think about most of it, really.
Yeah, fair.
But I don't know. Overwatch can be annoying and toxic a lot of the times because people it's a team-based game where it's incredibly complicated and there's a lot going on and everyone has really specific roles to accomplish, but at the same time, how do I put it? Everyone has main character syndrome because like the game plays kind of like an RTS or a MOBA, like logistically, but you're in first person the whole time. And also the game constantly kind of makes you feel like you're doing a good job by giving you all this credit for stuff, even when it's shared kills and so on. Like it kind of feels like you're doing it. And because you only see your first person perspective, it kind of constantly gives you the impression that you're doing a lot more than you are, and everyone else is not really doing anything. And so you get like that highlight that I got to do that one time where we played with some other people that were obviously streamers. So I looked at their stream and I saw them talking shit about us and so I got to like do the call out experience of like doing like when you play with Andrew, he's fucking talking trash the entire fucking session and yelling at everyone silently without being in voice comms. And like I'm sure that if they were streamers and I would then went and took those people's footage and compared it to Andrew's ranting, there'd be like some conflict between his version of reality and what was happening in the match, for example. And like that's what happened in that match, is like those people were like, this Anna's useless and these people aren't even helping and what all this other stuff. And then like from my perspective, like they're making every single mistake, and I can like jump back and forth to see like the juxtaposition between what they're claiming is happening and what is actually happening. And that's like every Overwatch. Like it is like I'll often say like I'll like wonder if the healers aren't doing their jobs or something like that, and then be like, and then mention like I can't really tell though. Like how do you tell? Because it's so hard to parse what the entire party is doing. And that's just like the kind of game it is. But if you're a non-introspective douchebag, as most people are, then it leads to just a lot of just incredible toxicity, and like the match kind of goes kind of bad, and then someone will immediately blame it on something like you not picking the meta pick or something for this map or this comp or something along those lines, and then like blaming the entire loss on you and your stubborn refusal to switch from a character you know how to play to someone you don't know how to play or whatever. And like those kinds of things. And so and then like any negativity can spin out real fast, because even if everyone's ignoring the annoying person can quickly like be performing much worse because of the fact that they're like resigned to the loss that you're causing by their perception of what you're doing. And that stuff gets frustrating, because I only ever did it once, but I joined SVB's skirmish pickups. I forgot the words for it, but it was like organized matches, and and like that was like, oh wow, everyone's like here to come play this game together in a way where like there's like a little community where like on average a bunch of the people like know each other and so on, and like obviously it's kind of moderated because like there's people running each match and you're all from one Discord and so on, so like there's consequences to just being a douchebag. And then how do I put the it's like playing, it's like back when you would play like I would spend eventually less time in matchmaking in Halo 2 and more time playing with my clan and friends list, which were essentially, you had like 100 friends on Xbox, then you had like a shared friends list essentially in the form of like your guild or clan or whatever the fuck they were called in that game, which was a weird feature that they had in Halo 2 and then like never again in other Halos as far as I can remember, or even other games. But like it was like a sort of like friends list pool. But like I think I've heard that that's like to some extent what the old community feeling used to be for like TF2, because it was all like making lobbies together as opposed to like matchmaking constantly. And like there's definitely a different experience there when you like you get to like kind of have a reminder of how fun the game is when you get to hang out with people like that, as opposed to jumping in with random people every single day and all of them are just assuming they'll never see you again, so they don't give a shit if they just are awful.
That's right. I recall that. That's how I used to play, basically, even Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
It's basically I would play in the same server, the same people.
I remember hanging out in Halo 2 the same way I used to hang out in like MMOs, which is a weird way to conceptualize a shooter.
Because we just joined the same server. Like we wouldn't have any connection outside of the game. We'd just be there, like,
hanging out with your buds. and you see the same people a lot. I fuck if I can remember any of them now, but once upon a time I had like a list of people that I was like very aware of and remembered all the time and stuff.
Mhm.
That was cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gaming is just completely different these days, and it's not necessarily for the worse or for the better. It's just I think it is for the worse, and some of it is, yeah, especially things like Fortnite in particular.
Almost every
where-
monetization strategy is for the worst.
For the absolutely, yeah. But like from a mechanical perspective, I feel because now we have things like Discord, and we have a lot. Social media changed a lot as well of how we connect to other people in terms of just forming communities, and you can just strike up friendships in Facebook groups or over Twitter or on Discord servers, and so you don't need the game anymore to do that. It doesn't mean. So basically, it means the games are free to do something else. So I think it's easy for us to look. Oh, the games these days don't do this anymore, but other things do. I think it's all right. But I think the monetization is a huge problem for sure of modern gaming. But that's Valve's fault at the end of the day. I noticed that immediately the moment they added loot boxes to Counter-Strike. I noticed, like, wait a minute, I'm playing the game not to win. I'm playing it for the loot box. I stopped playing Counter-Strike because of that.
What if we added reasons for you to play besides liking the game? It's like, I don't like this. I don't like this path.
I don't like the game anymore.
I don't like this entire strat.
Yeah, that was awful.
What if not that?
I found myself actively saying in chat, people being like, we lost right at the end. I was like, it doesn't matter. We still got the loot boxes. Because I literally said this multiple times in chat. Because at the beginning it wasn't quite like it is right now. Not right now. You level. Oh, well, I say right now. 4 years ago when I last played it, you leveled up, and every time it's like Overwatch. Every time you level up, you get a new loot box or new weapon or whatever, weapon drop and whatnot, and it's all random. The usual. But at the beginning it wasn't like that. It was every game you would have a random chance of getting a weapon, and basically it was like that. As far as I understood, anyway. And they changed that pretty fast because they saw that it wasn't the best way to extract the money out of people who don't have the money to spend and are susceptible to that sort of monetization strategies. So,
what if instead of that we made money?
Yeah.
On the game we already charged for. Hang on a minute.
No, it's free to play now. I think Counter-Strike Global Offensive is free to play.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure all these things were added before that.
Yeah. I paid.
Definitely
for it,
had to pay for these games originally.
Yeah.
And yeah, in your case, you definitely are getting charged. You're definitely being monetized. They're attempting to monetize you in a game that you already paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no escaping that from your perspective.
But
other people that aren't, you can play it for free now. Like, oh, cool.
I'm looking at my Steam stats. It's still Counter-Strike Global Offensive is still my second most played game in terms of hours, but it isn't because I play a lot offline in a lot of games in GOG and stuff. And yeah, so still I played a lot of it.
The Forex games.
Forex games, yeah. What is my top played Forex game? Let's see.
Mine is Civilization, whatever the one we did a series on, because we finished a game of Civilization, which is more than I've ever done.
Yeah, mine's Civilization 5.
And I lost because Andrew turned off the victory condition that I was working towards.
Religious victory is not a victory.
I probably would have lost regardless, but that was bad news to get like 6 hours in. Like I was like specializing exclusively in a religion because I've heard of religious victories, and then found out, oh, that's just turned off for whatever reason this playthrough. I've
religious victories are shit. It's such a pain in the ass to counter religion unless you specifically like.
You should have tried holy warring me.
because there's no way to like force atheism into your country, which is really obnoxious about Civilization. You have to like counter religion with a religion, or you can just like buy priest and purge religion from your place.
It's like Counter-Strike, but it's like the religion and the counter religion task force.
Yeah, like I want a way to, because I don't want a religion, and I don't want people to win through religion. I want to be able to like just completely nope out of it. I want to be able to teach my people to be anti-religious, like just dangerous to even teach religion to, and it's like not an option in Civ. It's just like it's frustrating.
It sounds, and I think it very much might be the case, like Andrew is just being anti-religious for the sake of being anti-religious. But I must say that religious victories in Forex games are really boring. They're really, really lame. Because it's just you chose the right buildings to build and you win now. It's so unengaging. No shade on you, Keith, but absolute shade on you for trying to win with a religious victory.
It was my first game.
Oh boy, yeah. So my most played
what
on
am I
Steam
gonna try to get a fucking war victory against the people that know how to play the game? That's a great strat.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
Everyone knows that if you play any strategy game, you specifically don't go for the fucking combat victory solution if there's any other option, because whoever knows how to play the game will win at that.
Yeah,
you don't stand a chance.
When I was playing, I'm not very good at all, but I was playing recently. Humankind is the name of the game. Really good as well. It's basically like Civ except better, and I basically kept going for religious victories but not really. I mean, the thing is, I was going for religious victories because everything else was failing. So I was just okay. I guess I'm just gonna couch myself in this part of my build here, where basically my armies were devastated. My cities were not making any money. But oh boy, did they believe in my gods? They did, and yeah, it's weird. Forex games are weird.
It's a really long time to spend losing in a game.
Mm-hmm.
It is a long haul of losing. I feel like I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was a point where I basically wasn't playing anymore, and there was still like 3 hours left or something in the playthrough. Like that's the kind of like pacing it has. Like the death is so slow.
It is.
Although we've had games of Twilight Imperium, although it's not really supposed to be a thing, but I've managed to make it a thing on accident because by being just such a juicy target, I guess. Because like there isn't really player elimination as a mechanic in Twilight Imperium, but twice now I've been eliminated from a game because I was just fucking like scorched earth off the map. Like there's just nothing left of me. And yeah, there was one game where Marty was streaming it, and I got completely wiped out by Carissa, I think. And then I just drove home. I was like, I guess I'll just head home. And I literally made it all the way home and they were still playing and so on. Like I was like, I could have hung out, but like I wasn't playing anymore, so I might as well just go.
Mm-hmm. That's like when I'm doing sim racing and crash out, and instead of waiting for the car to be repaired, I just go and have lunch. And then come back and I'm like laps and laps behind. It's basically the same thing, except noping out.
The game doesn't really have player elimination, but someone could basically take every single planet and unit from you, and then you don't really have actions anymore. And then it's like, I guess I'm eliminated. Mm-hmm. There was one where with Carissa, it was like instant regret of like, oh wow, I was pointing out that like she's not being aggressive enough, and she has to like do more because the last I've seen her like play multiple games and she just sits there and does nothing, and then the game ends after 10 hours and she's not getting much out of it. But then her immediate response was to fucking delete me. I'm like, all right, well. But with the other person that did it to me, with the other person that did it to me, they didn't even have like a victory point to get out of attacking me. They just like over invested in attacking me for so many turns that they lost. I was last and they were second to last, basically. Like they over invested so hard, and their big excuse was like, because you left it open or whatever. And it's like, but there was no strategic benefit to attacking me. It's like, but you left it open. So they just spent like 6 hours wiping me out and losing the game. Like just completely forgetting that you're supposed to be trying to win a game at all.
Mm-hmm.
People are goofy messes.
There's a real life lesson in there somewhere.
It's about the futility of war.
Yeah.
I mean, you're playing a war game, so at the end of the day, the lesson you're learning is that war doesn't feel good for anyone.
But that makes the lesson even more poignant. If in the war game the lesson is there, what if it isn't? the war game. I mean, it's the lesson is even more there. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Let's move on to the next question because we have talked about Forex. I have the next
question answers no. The end.
Keith is very upset. Keith is very upset with this question.
I'm not upset. I don't have an answer. I have no. You go have fun.
Do you not want me to ask this question?
Do it. Tell us if you have anything for this question.
I love the subject. Question is the subject. Love it. Do any of you follow any sports? And if you do, any team or people you follow can include eSports.
They're asking if you follow any sports teams.
And I'm very bad, and I read sports because I didn't mean to.
You read it how it's spelled. I'm like, wow, he's just gonna be mean and spelled and say the typo, huh?
I was thinking I need to read this right, and then I read it wrong. And I didn't realize.
It did give me pause. The first time I read it, I was like, what are S posts? Maybe my co-host will know what he means. And then after that, I reread it like 5 minutes later. I'm like, oh, sports, okay. But no, sports. I don't watch any sports. Once upon a time, I watched some Kings games of basketball with my family as like a family thing, and as try as I might to give a shit, I just really didn't long term. There was like a couple of weeks of being invested because people were invested, and then I was pretty past that. That was my entire history of sports.
That's how I started out watching football, was a little bit of that, but it didn't last a couple of weeks. It lasted like a couple of months. For a couple of months when I was 12, I knew all about football. I was there. I was just obsessed with that, and then I didn't anymore. But I must say I don't watch sports anymore. It's just capitalism fucks everything, and it just takes a little while for you to realize that it's just an unavoidable aspect of things. But capitalism fucks sports even more than normal things. It just makes things so rotten and bad. Like the last sport I followed was Formula 1. Actually, I'm lying. I follow motor racing. I watch races. GT3 races and stuff. I'm lying. Yeah, I definitely watch sports. Just not, big name sports, because it's, it's just small time GT3 races. Nobody watches that. Some people do. But yeah, I watched Formula 1 for a long time, but it's just like, it's such a farce. It's just so ridden with behind the scenes politics and like rule changes based on whatever is more profitable for the sport as a whole, and by profitable it means getting more money out of the fans. It's just a freaking farce. And it's the same thing. Like I was a cyclist for a few years, from between the age of 13 and 19 or 18 rather, so I did that as a sport very, very frequently, and so I followed cycling as well. Same thing with cycling. It's just on a different level. It's not necessarily politics. It's more just, unfair advantages and legal doping and a bunch of other crap, and just terrible. And then the thing is, people who follow those sports, they either like that, which is totally fair to like that. If you like seeing the politics behind the sports, that's fair. But a lot of the time, people just don't understand that what's going on, and they commit themselves to thinking, oh, this rider or this team, this football team or whatever, they're really better than the others. But it's really just a matter of like money or political influence. And they're deluded. People are deluded in thinking that, oh, my team is really good. Maybe this year is not as good because of maybe they're just not, their spirit is not in it. But next year, and it's just like completely unrelated stuff going on that doesn't make it out to the public. Like
the budget of a team and other shit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
oh wow, the fucking amount of money they have is a part of the game. Like, oh, that's kind of already muddying me caring about the sport itself already.
Yeah. But sports is all about the money. Like, I only very, very new sports are not about the money, and even those are all about the money, because there's always going to be, class distinctions. Because if you have to work to live, then you can't do sports. So it's already about the money on the selection side of things. But like anything that's moderately successful is all about having the best people working with you to train you well, and if there's no doping control, then having the best doping to get you on the edge right there where you need to be, or having the best engineers to make your machine work better, or whatever it is. And like for sure, there's a lot of talent, and
then there's just the depressing part where you're like, you're kind of just spending people, like,
oh yeah.
Like,
and, yeah.
human beings train themselves to get into this role where you just kind of run them ragged as much as you can in the few years that they're worth existing. And then maybe they get permanent injuries or maybe they don't. But before, in a relatively short amount of time, they're past being useful to this entire industry. And then they just get to figure out what the fuck to do with the rest of their lives now that they, spent their entire childhood and teenage years and college years all working towards this one goal. And then the time in which they get to do that is over faster probably than the time it took to prepare for it.
Yeah.
It's like Monster Prom.
Yeah. In the US,
you spend 3 weeks preparing for one night where you just ask one question once, and then the consequences are incalculable.
Yeah. And in the US, it's even worse because you have all the college sports, which is just literally foreign notion to me, but it's just completely unthinkable here, at least in Portugal. I think in most of Europe as well. The whole thing about college,
yeah, they can't
sports.
make an income. They're just getting fucked.
Like, why? And not just that. It's why is that a thing? College sports? No, just study and shut up.
It's like a lot of stuff that happens in prison. Like, never underestimate this country's ability to reinvent ways to not pay people for working.
But the real reason, I think, is just to feed a very complicated and billion-dollar machine that is the United States sports scene in general. And it's no wonder that the United States does get a lot of Olympic medals, and it's no wonder that it moves so much money. It's because there is such a ingrained culture right from young life to get into sports. And it doesn't apply to everybody, but at least the way I understand it, the way it is, it's so ubiquitous. It, like, here, I think at least in Portugal, you're going to find a lot more people who never have had any direct contact with any sports. Like, when I say sports, with any actual people who do competition sports. Never, like, don't know anyone who even tried that. Like, it's very common for people not to. I myself, like, the only people I know is people who went on to make a career out of cycling after 18 years after they reached 18 and continue doing cycling. That's the only people I know who do professional sports. Like, and there's few that I still keep in touch with. I could say I don't keep in touch with them, but like, nobody knows anybody that does sports. It's just so uncommon. But it doesn't impede the people from doing sports. That's the thing, though. Is like, if you like playing football, just play football with your friends and have fun with that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you like riding a bicycle, do that for fun. It's good. It's like physical exercise.
I relate way more to the idea of doing a sport than watching a sport.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like when I watch Overwatch, like any MLG type shit. It's just like, I do not care who is playing. I'm just being like, there's just I pop in for 5 minutes to be like, is anyone gonna do anything like cool? Like, usually it's like a Doomfist doing something really fucking weird, and you're like, okay, that recontextualizes Doomfist for me a bit, and then I move on with my life. I don't even know who did it. I don't even know who was in the video, or what player that was, or what team I was watching, and then I'm right back to just moving on with my life, because just like speed runs, I cannot watch. I cannot watch an eSports game for more than a few minutes. It's entirely just a spectacle of like, what do I happen to see in the moment, and not like me caring about who wins or what the match is.
Me watching the top of the line Doomfist player in competitive Overwatch was the reason why for a few weeks I was trying to learn to play Doomfist because it looks so easy. Oh, let's just jump all around the map and one shot everyone.
Yeah.
I want that. But then I couldn't do that because it's so difficult.
It's like, yeah, it's the appeal of watching Yeetle is seeing Wrecking Ball just pull off some shit, and you're like, wow, I should play Wrecking Ball. look at those cool things he's doing. And yeah, like it's one thing to watch somebody play an obnoxious like reflex and accuracy based like headshot thing that they have to do, like when they have to just be like incredibly on point, like fucking like Valorant player or whatever. But if they're playing like Overwatch and it's like a gimmicky character, it looks doable.
Yeah,
and then
right?
you play it and it's impossible, but you're like, it looks so doable because it's like it's not even like, it doesn't even look like Mario Odyssey. Like it doesn't even look like Mario Odyssey trick jump shit where you're like, that's a 75 button combo nonsense. It's like, I don't know, man, he just kind of swung up onto a thing and it was like clever and stuff.
Yeah.
But like he has like so much map awareness and timing down and knows exactly where everyone is somehow and exactly where to roll at what momentum and what to grapple at the exact time to hit the exact thing. But because it doesn't look like what you're used to seeing as being technical, like fucking like actions per second in a RTS or something, it looks like, oh, he just clicked on a thing and he did the thing. Look at him go. It looks fun. And it is fun.
Yeah.
But also you will fuck it up 80% of the time.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I got to the point where I was capable of traveling across most maps through some jumps that, not all jumps, not all strats. But I was playing by, like, I gave it a shot. I played by myself in like single player maps to learn navigation and learn timing and all that. And by myself, I was doing it sometimes. Like, oh, I can do this. I can pull off some cool things. But then when there's people around you, you just can't pull anything off. It's terrible. It's so difficult. Doomfist is weird because it's just punching to fly. That's the motto of that character. You punch into a wall and all of a sudden you're 30 meters in the air and then you jump higher even. It's wild.
Yeah, I've watched Overwatch League. Like I watch it pretty consistently, or I watched it pretty consistently for like 2 seasons. And there were like pro Overwatch players that I would watch on Twitch that weren't like in the league. They weren't like league players, but just like, good players. But it was more of just like it was more of a way to harness a skill that they had for myself rather than in it for the competition. I could care less if they won or lost or anything like that. All that mattered to me was learning what they were doing and finding a way to take that skill or those ideas behind their actions and apply that to myself. Which is like why I felt like I got pretty decent at Zarya from basically being a pile of shit at the character. Or something like that. It's just
so unplayable until the exact second it starts working.
Yeah, but it's a character, and like I feel more confident with my Reaper I felt more confident with my Reaper than I was too after watching, was because like just knowing what it is that like knowing what the character's very specific purpose in the game is for. Like there are always these, there are things about Overwatch that aren't really well explained, and a lot of them is that or a lot of it is about what characters' purpose is in a particular setting. And so like you talk about meta or whatever, but that is important. Like knowing the meta is very important.
If you look at the tutorial or whatever pop up, which is the most you have of an explanation of how to even play the game, basically, it's just there's 3 roles at the end.
Yeah. And yeah, then that doesn't even like, so you don't even know what an off tank is. Like that's not even like a thing explained to you.
Weird, yeah.
And it's like knowing that Zarya is an off tank, knowing that like you like how you should be using your bubble economy, knowing how like who are the people that you should even bother to bubble. Like those are things that when you watch a professional play, it's not a context of like, oh well, this is a professional game, so you can't apply those skills. It's like you just can't apply those strategies. Like it doesn't matter. Like yeah, of course, me and like 3 of my friends aren't going to be able to pull off whatever a fucking team of 6 fucking top 500 players do. Like, that's fine. I'm not trying to do that. I just want to know, like, hey, is it worth that I go and try to bubble a Junkrat that's being bullied while he's ulting? And Overwatch League says, no, fuck that guy. Like, he made a terrible decision. Like, let him die. You need to be focused on keeping the people that keep you alive, your healers and your tank. So, like, if neither of those people survive, then yeah.
Except Lucio. I don't think you should bubble Lucio. I always felt bad.
Yeah, you should definitely bubble a Lucio. A Lucio can literally move you out of a bad situation. Like, your Lucio could be helping you guys run away, and you could bubble him so he survives. And you always want to keep track of your healers and your tank.
I'm just
your
never
DPS,
in that situation.
It sucks, but DPS are literally just fodder. They are just nothing but fodder for the cannon. You can, like, healers should focus on them and keep them alive. But, like, that's why you have two healers, is one's focusing on tanks, the other's focusing on getting the off heals, the ones that, the people that the main healer isn't focusing on. But, like, DPS are supposed to kind of die. They are killers and sacrifices. Your tanks should never die. Yeah, but, like, your tanks should never be dying. If your tanks are dying, then either they're not getting properly healed or your tanks are terrible at doing their job. But, like, or I guess your DPS just isn't playing. If your DPS isn't killing anything, then I guess you'll probably die. But but the point being is that, like, your tank should be, if you know what you're doing as a tank, then you should be able to succeed pretty, not like always, but then it comes into the 50-50, like they always say, which is like, yeah, if everyone's playing at their best, like they're playing the optimum that they can for the character they're playing and they're working together, every match is 50-50. Overwatch is like 10-90 in reality, but it's just like
it's not 50-50 though. There's so much different skills though. Like, some people are just much better at noticing movement or reacting or positioning. Like, even if you're playing the best you can, like, there's always going to be choices, unless you're just talking from a theoretical perspective, obviously.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you played a skirmish match with like, you play on a team with 6 people consistently, and you know how they work, you work together really well, and you play a bunch of skirmish matches, you probably have, like, it's not 50-50, but it's going to be probably like more like 40-60 that you'll win. Like, you'll win 40% of your matches that you play. Probably pretty, like, consistently when you play, you'll always usually be about 40% of your matches. But, like, when you play alone on Overwatch competitive, it's not even like close to 15%. Like, you are throwing such a gamble, because even if you were the best, even if you could hard carry a team on your shoulders, it doesn't mean you can do that every time. There's going to be someone who just says, like, you know what? Fuck you exclusively, and throws or quits or fucking just like something. There are so many things you cannot account for in a competitive game when you don't have any amount of control over the other teammates. But if you throw it all out, if you just take all of that, put it in the dumpster and burn it alive, and you only focus on you and your character and playing as optimal as possible, that is when it is useful to watch someone playing a competitive sport. If it's only about you and raising your skill level, that's it. If you want to get better, then you watch how professionals play, you learn what they're doing, you understand why they're making the decisions they make, and then you can use that and apply that to your ability to focus on the things you need to focus on. You need to be able to, know where certain ults are for, or why certain ults are being used. If you see, like, again, like, say a Mercy, you see a Mercy doing ult, well, that's probably because they're going to do a big push. Or you see an Ana use an ult, that's probably because they have a fucking ult that they want to use, that the person they ulted has an ult they want to use. Like, you start to pick up these things and you start knowing, like, okay, when that happens, maybe let's back up and let that person waste an ult. Or, like, hey, maybe we can counter that person. People also usually take the wrong
info from this.
What was that?
Because people often take the wrong info from this, where they watch these games, and then instead of taking away the fact that, like all the really technical things that a person's doing individually, instead they just take the strategies and the team dynamics and so on. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
You cannot use their strategies. You cannot use their metas and their team comps, because when they're playing at that level against each other, they're in a weird bubble of their own with a separate meta and completely different rules, and you cannot behave like your team is their team or that your enemies are their enemies, so you cannot play them matched. So but that's the superficial annoying thing people often take away, is they try to make like police people's character choices based on what they saw in Overwatch League or something. It's like no, that is not the information you should be learning from that. That is, you are not playing the same game. You are in silver, sir.
Yeah, no, you should definitely be, when you're playing, especially like you're playing any competitive video game, you never want to just like copy paste whatever you see someone doing. You just want to hone, you want to see what skills you need to hone. That's all. You want to see like, hey, why did they decide to throw a mine on a fucking wall in Rainbow Six Siege? That seems like a weird fucking choice. And then when you watch that, like, oh, it's so that way when it blows up, it's like its own little, like it's like a back blow, so you can distract someone when they walk into a room, and then you can stand up and shoot at them. Oh, it's a good distractionary tactic. Okay, that's useful. But like, if you see a person playing that character, don't shout at them to do that strategy, right? That doesn't mean anything to them. Like, if they don't have the context, they haven't learned that skill, it doesn't mean anything. Just like if you're in Overwatch, you say like, you have to play Mercy. Well, what fucking good is it if this person doesn't know how to do like a super jump as Mercy, or understands like when to time their ult, or when to time their like power boost and healing? Like, if they don't know the mechanics of a character very well, what's the fucking point of them being a character just so they can fit into a weird meta that you watched on TV? Like, it's stupid. But yeah, and so that's the way I approach sports. And so that means, to answer the question, I also just only watch sports that have that I can gain anything from. I don't watch sports that I have nothing to gain from. Like, I'm not gonna watch football because I don't play football and I don't give a fuck about football. So like, it has zero value to me. And same with like soccer or hockey or baseball. Like, if I'm not playing that sport, I have no need to watch professionals play it. It's not entertaining. I don't feel any like, oh god, he almost got it. Like, I don't care, whatever, man, do your fucking life. It's just, but like, if it's a game like Overwatch, sure, I played Overwatch, and so I might as well watch it. I can learn something from them. I can get better. But I don't watch competitive Counter-Strike. I don't watch competitive Valorant. I don't watch competitive WoW. Like, I don't need to know how that stuff works. And so that's the way I approach sports. Is like, do I watch sports? Yeah, if it's something I'm trying to get better at, and if not, then no, I don't.
The last time I played StarCraft 2, I'm not sure if it was the last time. It wasn't the last time, but it was a time where I was playing StarCraft 2 and trying to get into the online of it. And I spent hours learning all the basic premises of playing multiplayer StarCraft, because it's a completely different game, and knowing the basic balance between macro and micro, and how to have a good early game strategy, and what options that leaves me. I was playing with Terrans, so was the faction I was playing on and all that. And I spent a bunch of time learning, and in the process of learning, I actually ended up just playing like 5 or 6 matches, and I won a couple of them. And I was like, oh, I can win online matches. I am good at this. And then I stopped playing. But in the process of learning, I did watch some multiplayer, the big StarCraft is a big eSports game. And I watched some matches. And I must say that knowing what they're doing, StarCraft is incredible to watch, because it's like a slow motion boxing game where there's strategy in what they're doing. And there's like, it's brilliant. Some of the games that I watched were just brilliant stuff, but they do require you to know the game. And I although I don't think I would be able to learn, because it's just such a complex game, StarCraft in particular, that I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, I'm gonna do that strategy, because a lot of the good stuff comes from, oh, so you've been throwing armies one after the other against this base and doing basically no damage, or whatever, wasting your army, or your army's been taken a couple of times in this part of the map, and now you're gonna steal this base out in the middle of nowhere, and then switch to microing damage in another part of the base to distract the other player, so you can send a bigger army this way or whatever. And all those strategies and all that, those are very contextual, especially in a game like StarCraft. So I don't think you can learn from from watching. I think you need to learn from playing. It's definitely that kind of game. But it's really good. I always think of those games that I watched of StarCraft 2. They're good stuff. If the commentators know what they're doing and explain to you what's going on, that also helps.
Yeah, that's true. I guess a good
Death to all sports.
wow, that's very open-minded of you. I appreciate it.
What
I
about
appreciate
duck hunting?
What? Why would is that the one you think I'm gonna like die like defend? Like, oh man, I'm gonna die on the hill of duck hunting. I love the ducks dying. It's great. Fuck those ducks.
I don't think that's a sport. Is that a sport? Is that an actual sport?
I don't know. Is hunting a sport? I don't.
Oh yeah, that's true. Hunting is definitely a sport.
Is hunting a sport and is chess a sport?
I mean, the reason why
what? Yeah, of course.
The reason why we think sports utility or we say sports utility vehicles are sports utility vehicles is precisely because of hunting. The sports part is mostly the hunting.
I mean, two things can be wrong.
That's true, but
it's possible.
If you're asking, is hunting a sport? Then yes, it is. As done by a lot of people, I should point out. Not that I'm defending it. If you're gonna eat meat, do it in a way that doesn't incentivize you doing it more than you need to, basically. Because that's the biggest thing about hunting is that, oh, this was good. I liked it. Let's shoot it again next week. No, just eat salad instead. Yeah, basically. Because it's about the incentive, right? If you like doing it, you're just going to do it. You're going to find a reason
it's
to
an
do
encouragement of gun culture and so on. And also just an element of
also that, yeah.
There's just elements of like... seems like in some cases like one of the least safe ways to eat meat is to shoot it with a gun, which like there's some animals that might be dangerous if they don't go down, and there's other situations where it's like I think they shoot birds with like some kind of splinter shot shit that like it's a shrapnel kind of like bird shot, and that increases the chance that you're gonna have like stuff going in your body that was meant to kill the bird, like chunks of metal and things, or like it seems like the kind of thing that's harder to extract. Not that bird seems like the best option for meat to begin with. Like there's a reason why people just farm them in a cage instead of trying to just run out there and hunt them, because like the ways of shooting them seem like they are dangerous to the process of eating it in some ways.
I think at least in regards to birds, it might be possible to just defeather them and then analyze and see where there's entry wounds, and then you more or less can gauge from there, I suppose. I don't know. I have no idea about anything about... I don't know. I don't think I know personally anybody that hunts. I know people who have hunting weapons, but they don't do the hunting because you need to have land for that. And birds.
Yeah, I used to hunt when I was younger. It's not that bad, but it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it depends on how much you really give a shit about eating the thing you're killing. And for me, it's not really, I've never been that passionate about food. So the effort that goes into like getting a deer or even just a pheasant is like, this is a lot. I don't know if I care that much, man. I'll just like go to the grocery store or whatever. But I can see how I guess it would be fun. You just sit there and you wait, and like your patience is rewarded by being able to get the upper hand on some animal who honestly you could just take in a 1v1 fight if you just captured it and beat it to death with your bare hands. But whatever,
Andrew,
fine.
you and punching birds, Andrew. Oh my god.
I'm just saying you can win a fight with like any animal you're gonna actually hunt and eat. It's not like you're not gonna hunt a bear. They're
this
not good.
This podcast should be called "How Andrew Would Punch Every Animal in Nature and Win."
I feel like we've done a podcast.
Yeah.
Have you not seen my Elden Ring playthrough? It's pretty much all I do. Just walking around and bonking something on the head and just moving on. It's
Andrew throat punches the world.
Pretty much. There you go. Yeah, just that's all I have. I don't have anything else. Only no runes, no nothing, just thin beast bones.
I suppose that's where fishing. Like I think that attitude that what you described hunting as kind of aligns with my perception of what fishing is.
You don't think I punch a fish either?
Rewarded. I don't like fish. Yeah, it's just. But
fish is great. It's.
Hate it. Too many.
I appreciate I think my favorite thing about fishing, unlike animals kind of have there's not really much opportunity or choice that animals have to like be a dick to us, like cows, pigs, chickens. They kind of just they are stuck a little bit forever. Like there's not a way for them to really adapt to fuck us over. But fish are doing such a good job of this. Fish are just doing an amazing job of being like, you know what? Fuck all of you. And they're making themselves smaller, and they're basically just hiding away from surface area. So it's just there's a set area that they're just not going anymore because those fish just won't repopulate. And so it's beautiful how fish are just kind of you know what? We'll leave all of that shittiness to you. Enjoy that. We're just going to be down here having a good time. And I like that. I appreciate that about fish.
And then a whale shows up and eats them all.
That's fine. But, well, I mean, no, because the fish or whales can't even, I don't think they can digest that much.
Can you imagine, as a fish, you're swallowed by a whale? You might not even realize that until you're dipping its guts because the size is so big.
Yeah, I wonder what the what does it look like coming at you? Yeah. Yeah, what does that look like coming at you? Is it just a wide, dark mass? You're just well, I guess it's a wind or something. And then you're just whoa! Yeah. Maybe it's the first time a person stared into a tornado. You're just what is that? It looks like a lot of wind. And then it's just fucking dead. And you're oh God, what happened?
I have never seen a tornado.
Meanwhile, what is it like for the fish on the outside that sees it coming in? You're not in the path of the whale, but you see the whale. So it just passes by and you're oh God.
Yeah, that's traumatizing. No, they probably don't because it's too it depends on, I suppose, the depth, but it's probably too dark for them to see. The fish judge a lot of things by just their fins. The eyes don't matter as much.
Yeah, there's just a lot of terrifying videos where some divers are just existing in the ocean, and then they turn around a little bit, and boom, there's an entire whale shark in their face.
Oh, that's right. We're talking about your favorite subject, Keith.
Yeah, the ocean. Fuck it.
Yeah, the ocean. It's just it's worse than space.
Yeah, space is empty.
Yeah. And it is pretty bad. Space is pretty bad. The ocean is worse.
It's
incredible that. Oh yeah, definitely. It isn't.
I don't know. I think the ocean
point A.
The ocean is at least the ocean is escapable. You can't escape space.
Fair.
Well, if once you're in space, you're kind of in space. There's not you can't just. An astronaut can't just say no thanks and just go back to Earth. There's a lot that goes into getting back to Earth, but
Outer Wilds lied to me.
But underwater's pretty okay. You can just be you know what? I've decided to go against this, and you just kind of float back up. You just go back up.
I mean, I think if you're in the ocean to any extent comparable to being in space, you're just no getting back out.
Also that.
Well, as long as you're not in a cave, that's not true, right? You can get a flotation device. They have those funny little capsule floaters that you pull open and it just pulls you all the way up to the surface. Also, it's not fast, but the
pressure, it can't be fast because the pressure difference is gonna screw you up. There's a bunch of things going on unless you're
either by the surface of the ocean or you're dead.
Yeah, well, there's a limit to how.
Just how we're by the surface of space, or we're dead.
The surface, I don't know. I
think when you actually go to space or the real ocean, you're fucked, and you're completely not in a survivable situation, and that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, sure.
That's why we should fix climate change and fuck all the oil industry.
Why would we do that? Keep it going, and then the water keeps getting higher, and then we're all part of the ocean now, and so then that way we all have to die. You don't want to fix a problem. You don't want to fix a solution.
Let's make the oil
you want to
industry
fix
die
a problem.
first.
Well, they will die when no one can drive cars. It's like you got to go the easy route. Occam's razor
they
here.
need to go
If you
first.
flood the world, then cars can't exist, and you can't drill for oil because it's hard to drill for
Aquaman is
oil.
very good at driving.
I mean, sure, he drives like but he's not good at driving. He's good
I don't know.
at
I don't
carriaging.
even know who Aquaman is.
Aquaman
Wait.
has his little seahorse carriage, so you can't.
Oh,
like,
that's
Who
that goofy.
Aquaman is?
Did I say who or what?
I'm saying like you. What? How do you not know who Aquaman is?
I don't know who Aquaman is. I never read any of his comics. Or is he a villain?
I don't think you need to read his comics to understand who he is. What on your first impression, what do you think Aquaman is? What do you think he's? What do you think he
He's a
does?
villain, so I don't know what the fuck our baseline is.
I think he's a superhero, right? He's a man.
yeah.
Like
He's
if
a
he's a man,
superhero.
it's a superhero. That's how man works.
Can you imagine him? Like, what color is Aquaman?
Blue.
That's like
Or
the only
green.
wrong answer.
That's the only. He's every other color but blue.
no. So think about this. You have his name's Aquaman,
Okay.
and he's blue.
He's Aqua. Aqua is
Okay.
blue.
Not blue.
Right?
So
Stop saying he's blue.
what is Aquaman's power?
He controls the oceans.
So a man that is in a blue suit controls the oceans. Is he using it like camouflage? Is he how?
No, he
is,
just
what's the
attacks
point?
people with big waves. Like he does this Moses kind of thing. Is like and then a bunch of water comes in and smashes into Superman.
So,
or
like controls
whoever is fighting.
tsunamis. He's like a tsunami starter.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds. I mean, I would do that.
And is he like what is?
That's why I was asking.
What is
like,
his jurisdiction? Like what like Batman's got Gotham, Superman's got Metropolis. What is Aquaman's city? Where is Aquaman stationed?
Oh, that's a good
at?
one. He's weird. He sounds like a Wolverine kind of character.
So
Where
he's,
it's
he's
like
at a school.
he helps
He's
He helps other superheroes for things like maybe like this superhero needs this thing being fixed or whatever, and Aquaman's got this, and he comes in and he drives a car real good in the ocean, as we have established that is one of his superpowers.
Okay. What is Aquaman's biggest villain? Who do you think is like the biggest villain to Aquaman?
Because that was what I was wondering. Because like it's such a limited power in my mind that it just controls the water and drives very good in the ocean. That it sounds like the power of a super villain. He's like, he's gonna destroy New York City with his water, and then comes Superman and punches him and does the Superman-y things. What is his villain? I don't know. I don't know very many villains. They all have weird names like Lex Luthor and things like that, and Octopus Doctor.
Okay. That is one interpretation of it, I guess.
I just wasn't ready for the sentence. They all have weird names like Lex Luthor and Octopus.
Octopus Doctor. Is the doctor that fixes octopuses. Octopi.
He's a doctor that fixes octopuses.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a meltdown.
I think it's Dr. Octopus, right? That's the one in Spider-Man 2. No,
yeah.
Spider-Man 1. Yeah. Yeah, his villains would be things like the Green Lantern and things like that. Just being mean. Aquaman doesn't sound like he has a personality. Like he's a man for one. It's not like I mean, I suppose Spider-Man is a man as well, but it's like he doesn't have an alter ego. He doesn't feel like he's Jason Steadfast by day and then Aquaman by night. You know what I mean? It's like Aquaman just comes out as an ad for help. Like the Flash. Who knows what the Flash is called? Nobody knows. It's just a normal hero. Doesn't have a name. Yeah, it's not like Peter Parker or Bruce Wayne.
So, okay, so I do think that Aquaman tends to just be Aquaman because he lives in the ocean.
There you go.
But the Flash is several, depending on which Flash you're talking about, several people that have real lives.
That just
turn into the
furthers
Flash.
my goal. That just furthers my
The Flash
point.
is exactly like Spider-Man. in that way.
But it's multiple people, so it's like the Flash itself is just, it's
No, I mean over the generations, different people
I
have been
see.
the Flash. Like Miles Morales is Spider-Man.
Oh, is it? I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
That's
some
Into the
universe,
Spider-Verse. Yeah, that's Spider-Man.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't
And
know
he's
that.
just Spider-Man. He's not like the other Spider-Man. Like he's not Spider-Man 2, the sequel.
That's interesting. Why isn't he called Peter Parker?
Because he's
does
not
Peter Parker.
he's not Peter Parker. Peter
Does
Parker
Peter Parker
canonically
already-
exists in that universe and is
Yeah.
not either still is Spider-Man or no longer is Spider-Man or something. It's like
Oh, that's
Batman
cool.
Beyond, where Tracy was the new Batman
Mm-hmm.
and Bruce Wayne was an old man.
But you said that Aquaman has a chariot, which immediately puts me in the mind of, is this Hercules?
He has like a seahorse chariot, right?
Yeah,
Is this like, is he a super,
Is an
is
ocean
he like
chariot.
a super villain of Hercules?
What?
You know,
Wouldn't that be
the Disney-
Poseidon?
I'm not emotionally
but, like-
prepared for the directions you're going.
That's Poseidon, but he's called himself Aquaman. Maybe that's what it is. Just a cameo, you know. Poseidon is his real name. He's Poseidon by day and Aquaman by night.
Well, wait. So then he wouldn't be fighting Hercules then because you couldn't use the trademark.
No, Disney.
Or do you think
controls
there is there?
everything.
Do you think there's a superhero named Hercules?
Is there not?
No,
There might be.
well, It's not. There probably are. There probably is. That's true. That's
There's a
the point.
Thor, so everything's out the window.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Why would he have a chariot? That's not very That's not very.
I guess
comic
there is a
booky.
DC character called Hercules. Of course there is. Why would you bother having original ideas? So
Look, people are called Hercules. That's okay for them to
Okay.
be called Hercules. I know
well,
a person
it
who's
is.
called
It
Hercules.
is literally Hercules. It's not just someone named Hercules. It's
okay.
literally Hercules, the
Literally.
Olympian
I mean,
god.
fucking Disney
Um,
tried to like trademark Thor or copyright it or whatever. You know, the character that exists already, like, is an ancient character pre-existing their entire company. Like,
well,
that's just-
pre-existing entertainment as a thing.
people just
it's
want
a-
to
it's
carve
a-
up everything that they can and be like, but what if
Disney
I
wants to
owned
own
it instead of
everything.
everyone owning it?
I think the problem is
You
they
ever think
want to
about
own.
that loser?
They want to own a very specific thing, but the problem is that people again aren't very original, and so they take the name of things that already exist and use them. And then when people say like that's mine, it's like no, like someone already did that first. You actually are infringing on someone's copyright, so you need to stop. Like Thor
You
is
made
technically
this?
copyright infringement, all of it, like the whole
Trademarks.
fucking
I
thing.
made this.
is- Yeah,
Trademarks are
like,
different, though.
Well, no, I mean, I would imagine a religion is copyright, right? It's a story. It's a narrative. So it's a universe. It's like a fictional world that you've created, and it has characters and stuff like that. So wouldn't that be
We should have a
think-
podcast with Legal and just discuss all these things.
well? Let me check here.
You,
Can
one
you-
person that knows what they're talking about. Can you talk to yourself for 2 hours while we don't know what to say?
So for context here, the
podcast.
Bible is a copyrightable piece of work. Obviously, because that's not a good idea for a religion, it is in the public domain. The copyright has been waived. But it is an object that can be copied, or at one time could have been copywritten. So that means that it is a piece of fiction that again has its own own
doesn't mean
characters,
that it's
has
a piece
its own
of
world.
fiction.
No, I'm saying that it falls under the guidelines of it's a whatever. It's a thing. It is a
It's a
story
thing, yeah.
that you can copyright, which means that if
Mhm.
someone takes something from it, like if you have a DC comic called Jesus Christ
Actually-
the superhero, you could that's like that you can't just go and trademark Jesus Christ because it is a thing that already exists. It has
Actually,
a
that's a-
copyright. Like
That's a good point. Does it mean that that if you copyright something, it has to be fiction? Actually, I maybe I said something wrong. Like if you copyright any piece of work, it has to be
I don't
fiction,
know.
right? You
Someone
can
Google
don't
it
copyright.
think-
for 2 seconds.
I don't know if you can copyright like World War II. Like,
Yeah, you can't. Like
But can you-
news. You can copyright
that's
news.
mine. Like,
Yeah. Although Blizzard Activision definitely would want that.
Can you own a world war? That is a good question.
would-
Can
they
I go
would
to
like that.
can I argue this in front of a judge that I deserve all of the anytime someone references World War II, I need to be paid for that. That is my product.
Disney
Just
also
like as
would
a
like this.
concept.
I should get on the horse and make sure that I also copyright World War III, so that way when all of you try to call it World War III, you gotta pay me royalties. It's mine exclusively. I don't know. I don't know. Let me check. I could check. I guess. I can't. Well, yeah, you can copyright nonfiction, right?
That doesn't sound right.
That was the question he raised a second ago, and I was like, somebody Google it, and
I don't think that sounds right. Like maybe you can copyright, because you can copyright the text that you write about nonfiction. That's a different thing. You can't trademark because it's trademark, right? I got mixed
okay.
up.
So they can, but only
they can, but it's trademark.
They only
is not.
have.
Yeah.
Well, so they can copyright it, but they can only copyright the way that they interpret it. So they don't have a copyright for the subject, but only the way that they've written about the subject. So someone like I guess scuttled in and grabbed a paragraph from their book and scuttled out with that paragraph and put it in their own. You could be like, haha, that is my paragraph about Jesus. And someone's like, ah, shit, you caught me. Like that, you could get it. But if someone's like, I'm just going to write a book about Jesus, like a pope can't show up and be like, that's mine, you cannot, and beat you over the head. Like they can't.
Although they did that for many centuries and killed many people doing exactly that, by the way.
I think people have done that for pettier things. But the point
they also
is
did that for pettier things, but specifically for talking about Jesus, they killed a lot of people. It's called the Inquisition.
I mean, that was different. That was because you needed money, and the best way to get money is to have people that are devoted to you financially. And the only way to get people devoted to you financially is if you make them read a book where the book says that they have to donate a certain percentage of their wealth to you, and that way they can get into the fancy place that apparently requires taxes. I don't know why God needs taxes, but he needs taxes. And it's weird because I don't see him building good infrastructure projects because there's still no way to fucking drive to heaven and beat him up. So I don't think he needs the money.
You don't need to drive to heaven. You just need a train.
Well, how am I getting back? Because otherwise, if I kill myself, I can't come back here. I'm stuck there. So I need a car so I can get all the way back. And there's not going to be a train because that would be really inconvenient. I don't want to sit on a train with 50 other people who are probably devout to him going up there because they're going to beat me up when I show up to beat him up. It's going to be a problem. So I'm trying to get there by myself alone so I can 1v1 him in Nuketown and win the fight. It's over. It's me versus God. No snipers, no fucking time limit. One kill, one life, one pistol, one bullet. It's over. Fight me, coward. Let's do it.
This sounds. I think I can see the way you're describing it. I think you could see why God wouldn't make a road for cars because you're just saying build the tool for your own destruction. I think training
sounds like God's scared. In which case,
I'm not gonna blame.
I win by default because it means
the nuke.
Yeah, exactly.
You win by default.
I win by default. What's it called?
God
So I don't know. I would be curious.
God's a coward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, learn that, atheist. Come on. You guys spend so much time talking about shit. Why don't you just go try 1v1 guide? Easy. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how that works with like Norse mythology. Like you can, obviously Disney can't copyright Thor because they've just like, come back and go like, oh, wait a second, you can trademark him. Yeah, you could trademark, but it's only trademarking that particular, but only for that Thor. So like, so you can't say it can't be like Thor, the Norse god in the Marvel universe, right? Because like there's like Thor still exists, in other media, and it's not like Disney can show up and be like, nah, I own that. Like they can only say
exactly
you can't
what
do
they were trying to do.
Well, yeah, I know that they're trying to do that because Disney, if they could, they would literally own the United States. But
they would like that.
Literally the entire country.
Literally,
they already
would
own
do
Florida
whatever they
anyway.
could.
So
I mean, if they could, Disney would own any property that they could get money from in any other media. And the United States is in like every Hollywood movie. So you know how much money you'd be getting from that? Crazy amounts of money. It's a lot of money.
But then again, Disney also owns to own all Hollywood movies.
I don't know about that. I think they just want to shut like 90% of them down and just have like the two that they like the most around.
Yeah, that does
I
sound
mean,
right as
I
well.
guess it's not even Disney too. I think Jeff Bezos just bought, or not Jeff Bezos, Amazon, because he's not
Oh
there
no,
anymore.
yeah.
Right.
Disney isn't special
Um,
in this. It's just a factor of the system they work in called what's the term?
Entertainment.
Ah, dang it. I thought you were going to say capitalism.
No. I mean, well, capitalism is
Venn diagrams.
capitalism is just a vehicle, but it's entertainment
That's true.
that is the
that's a good
gun.
understanding of it, I think.
Like that's the it's. But that's what happens, I guess. Like I'm sure, just like video game studios, movie studios also just live on an operating of loss causality for the remainder of their life until some generous benefactor comes along and either like eats them whole or just poops them some money and flies away. But I think they're just always in a negative until they can't be anymore. And so I think the uniqueness in Disney is that it owns non-movie things. And so it makes its money that way, or it makes money that way. So that way it doesn't have to be 100% reliant on a movie studio, where like MGM or Paramount have like TV stuff, but that's about it. You don't see like Paramount Land. You don't get to go ride the Master Chief Paramount Experience ride or whatever. So I think divesting your
That's so
interest
weird.
has been financially successful for Disney so far. The pandemic almost really fucking kicked them in their kneecaps, but they got away this time. Maybe next time we'll get them.
Nah. The only way to get
Nah.
them is there's a lot of other things that we need to get before we get Disney.
I mean,
Not
you
in
can
the
just
sense
use
the
proper
priority, it's just-
legislation. It's just that, but you know,
In the United States.
true. I mean, especially Florida. You're not going to get proper legislation
Especially
in Florida.
yeah.
They're not going to come by and like properly tax you for the amount of land that you own, and thus inhibiting from actual necessity to be built in that land. But that's fine. I'm sure people would love to live at
Or
Epcot or something. I think Walt tried to do that, and it would have been super dystopian. And I'm kind of sad we didn't get that reality. It would have been an amazing world to live in.
It's like Cyberpunk, except without any of the criticism. So any of the punk.
So Cyberpunk 2077. There we go.
Yeah.
We did it. All right, everybody. You can send in your questions to dialogchoicespodcast@gmail.com, and you'll get maybe an hour-long deranged pseudo answer, and then we'll ask for more questions.
Please do send more. And also the nice, well-written ones. Not the ones that say that we're nice. Different.
Or Colonel's going to keep inventing new questions.
I didn't invent it. You.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
All right, bye.